So the hole through the soundboard for the speaker mount wasn't a perfect circle. You can tell it's a lot more true. So it's not a lathe, it's improvised. Well, I guess you could say every part of this is a little bit crazy, but that's the way I roll. Focus on the soundboard for the amp cabinet. I'm counterboring recesses to accept a washer and nut. What I've chosen to do is come up with an 832 flathead from the finished side. This will be countersunk into the opposite side. And when it comes through here, it'll be anchored in place by using some thread locker and this nut. And I need about 160 thousandths of an inch recess. I have a socket, an 11/32 socket will drive this nut, and the 11/32 socket fits down in that handily. I used a 5/8 diameter countersink, or sorry, Forstner bit, and that's what's in here. So I'm at a depth of 179 thousandths here, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these done. I have 3 more to go. In order to do the last 3, I need to flip this plate around. So spin this around the other direction. So I'm sort of eyeballing it. Like I said before, you got to mostly make sure you don't go too deep. That's about 200. And so on. So I'll keep going like that. So I'm at a depth of 179 thousandths here, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these done. I have 3 more to go. In order to do the last 3, I need to flip this plate around and reshim. This is a spot check to make sure that the hole centers in the loudspeaker align with the hole centers from the Forstner bit drilling operation. Things look good. So that should work out pretty well. And now I need to get the through drill. I got a hold of a nice countersink from my buddy Mark. Measured the head of the number 8 Phillips flathead at about 300 thousandths of an inch. These turned out nice. I'm going to go ahead and fit this up with all 8 screws. They're recessed nicely. And check that I can fit the speaker over them. Well, this is the moment of truth. Got the speaker. I want to orient it the way I plan on putting it on. And it fits. So I was really careful putting everything back in here so I wouldn't drop anything, and of course I still dropped something. I have no idea what it was. It might have been a lock washer, it might have been a nut. But that's why when I need 8 of something, I buy 10. Maybe you don't have that problem, and maybe you will never have that problem. That would be awesome, and I'd be very happy for you. I figure I'll spin a couple nuts on. Hey, here's the update. I've got the soundboard fabricated. It's painted black. The studs, 8 of them sticking out. The nuts are going down on washers into the counterbore. I think I showed you the nice deep well socket I found, 9mm, that works really well to tighten that in. So those are torqued in really well, and then I put thread locker down as a backup to keep them from getting loose. Then painted it flat black, and this is a mock-up to see if things are going to fit. This is my bottom inside panel. It's going to fasten to 2 little cleats fastened to the bottom, and then these side rails span from here to here, and something like that. And so I need to make sure these cleats are not in the way if I need to take the soundboard out, and if I'm going to put the soundboard in after these are in place. So I've clamped the side rails, as you can see, and this is sort of the moment of truth. You can see, maybe you can see the line I sketched here to try and make sure that things are going to fit. But this is a thicker soundboard than the original, and a couple of other little design changes. And it goes in no problem. So that's a big green light, and coming back out, same deal. It's that swing right there that has to fit, and then like that. So whether this comes in and out with or without the speaker is kind of immaterial. I think the speaker would probably follow through if you had to take it out with a speaker on it. So that's good. And up above, I checked that the chassis will go in and come out with these cleats in place, and that's good news too. This is the upper backing piece. It'll go like that. So I need to do final fab and sanding and cover the soundboard with grow cloth, and I'm just working out a couple of fastening things. I want to change the way the chassis fastens into the cabinet. What I've done is desolder the one end of each of the 2 resistors coming from this tube socket to this jack, and the one end of this resistor coming from the tube socket to this jack, so that I can remove the jacks clean under here without stressing this taut resistor spanning there. And I'll put in a little stress relief. So I've taken these 3 controls and the 2 jacks out, cleaned the nuts with alcohol wipe, and then I just use soap and water to clean the panel. It's much cleaner, and I don't have that dusty, cruddy surround on these anymore, so it's better. I have to take out the indicator light and the fuse and do the same thing there. So I'm laying out the cutout in the top back panel for the electrical connection. Go ahead and do the AC wiring. I'm going to bring the hot to the switch, and in AC in the US, black is hot, so I'll bring the black wire to the backside, the switch here, on and off switch, and I'll bring the white to the fuse, and then when it's turned on, it goes to the primary, and that completes the circuit. Primary of the transformer. Sometimes I can be a little bit clumsy when I'm doing this stuff, but I wanted to give you an idea. This is about 20 gauge wire. It's probably a little beefier than it needs to be. You could use 22 or 24 probably for the current carrying, but it's nice stout wire for AC wiring. And let's go ahead and get the solder joint, and then we'll move on to the second one. I'm using my lead-free solder here. Good solder joint. I might have spun all three of these wires together, but honestly I didn't think of it. This will be fine, but where this lug connects to the chassis, more importantly, I want to be sure I get a good electrical contact. That's going to ensure a good ground. So here's a nice tidy 3-wire, white and black for neutral and hot respectively, and then green for ground. Good connection to chassis. These will easily coil up in here when slide the back on. Here's the back that needs to be modified. So I've drilled the 4 holes in the corners. These ends are all stripped and tinned and ready to solder on, but I can't do it until this goes in. And this needs a little bit of finish work first, so I'm going to put at least urethane coat on here, and then I can put the plug in. So I've made the choice to do this by hand. I've got an X-Acto saw right here. Cuts a pretty fine line. I'm going right to the line, and then I can file it. Okay. So this is the final cut on here. I want to show you a couple of places where I'm going to be using some plastic wood. There's a little undercut here, there's a seam here, and then back behind here there's a little crevice where there wasn't a perfect match that could be visible from the side. Let's see, so on the other side over here too, I've got the little crevice, a similar spot there. Then over at the bottom of the case there's a little gap here. We'll fill that in. Just slight imperfections, it's going to look a lot better with that. After I sand this down a little bit, that might still show, I'll put some there. Back here I purposely left the top a little bit big this way. So I've got a little bit of a step there, and I'm sanding that down. I don't think that'll need to be filled with plastic wood by any means. Oh, and the screw heads. Yeah, so on the bottom, there are a few. There are 3 there. And then, of course, the inside stuff, the brackets, those screw heads, I went extra deep and to bury the head so I could have a substantial slug. So we'll fill those in. Some of this plastic wood, blow everything out so there's no dust there, and ladle this in. Use a putty knife. Okay, so I guess I didn't do the play-by-play, but I've got a smear of putty here, the plastic wood. I've got just enough to fill the crevice here and here. I've covered the screw heads and the screw heads on the bottom. Want to let this cure and then sand it and see what I'm left with. If I have to do another coat, I will. I ended up having to use a window glazing putty knife type thing because my narrowest putty knife wouldn't even go in the can. So you need like a 3/4 inch, maybe a 1 inch putty knife to do this. I guess that's about 1 inch there. I'm going to keep cleaning off my tools, let this dry, sand it and see what we have to do. Little progress report for you. This is all shaping up nice. So this plastic wood has done the trick. Maybe just a couple more strokes of sandpaper here. I like it, and I forgot to fill in the crack over here, so I'll have to still do that. But the screw heads have all come out nice. With the finish on, they'll be a little less noticeable, I'd say. Things look good. So I have to sand here some more. There's still a bit of a step. And the bottom pieces. So let me show you the bottom. Let's see. I guess I can do it like this. So you see how it really quickly turns into a nice blend? This is like 220, 150 paper, so it's pretty coarse. So we'll just have like a little ghost image. Much better than the screw head showing. Yeah, I like it. So some fine sandpaper, and as we get down, I'm going to use some sanding sealer. Go back over things. So my next thing is to catch this this gap here. Stay tuned. So I crammed some putty in here, some plastic wood in here, and then went over it. About like that. About like that. So let that harden up and sand it again. So it occurred to me, this is the serial number for the Kalamazoo amplifier. It's on the back of the speaker that I'm no longer going to have in the cabinet, so I'd like to remove the label. And it turns out it separates pretty easily. So man, it sure can be dicey. You want to be careful you don't slice through the label, which okay, I just did. I lost the M from the Model 2. So I think, I don't know, well, one technique is to roll it back as you slide along, but you want to keep an eye on the label business area that you're trying to preserve so it's intact. Ta-da! Not too bad. So mostly adhesive left behind. Just a little holiday there next to the M for model. So what I'll do is I'll laminate this onto a little placard that I'll attach to the back of the speaker that's going in. This, I keep these old things, but one day I'll have to pitch them out. It's just probably not going into anything. It's cool vintage, not the greatest sound. The way I like to try and get clean holes through brass shim stock is to clamp it between two pieces. So I've measured out and prick punched and center punched for my hole centers. So I'll try and get the hole pattern I need to hang this little medallion with the old serial number sticker in the, on the inside of the cabinet. Homage to its original incarnation. Okay, I'm pretty sure that went through on both sides. And it should be a relatively clean hole. I might consider repeating this on the other side, but I think 2 screws is going to be enough to hold it. So this is just masonite, 3mm brass, and then a little pine furring strip of about the right size. So it's not perfectly burr-free, but it's fine. It's going to be under the head of a screw. So what remains is to laminate this on here. I think I might use dry mount adhesive. It'll look something like that. So in addition to making a cutout in the plywood for this AC in, I also made a little surround piece to help distribute forces if something's like pulling on this, if this crashes or something. And then I used some roughly 1/8 inch steel, maybe it's 16th inch steel. Yeah, it's close to 1/8 inch. A bracket that had holes in it as further buttressing. This is to spread out any stresses over more surface area. That was the idea. And you know, it's not the cleanest execution in the world, but it's not. It's going to be hidden, so it'll be sort of like this. That's what you'll see. So I'm pretty happy with that, actually. Just number 4 hardware into this piece, and it's pretty stout. The 1/4 inch Baltic birch itself, Baltic birch plywood, is pretty stout. I've marked where I plan on putting the holes. I'll probably check the dimensions and do it a little bit more precisely. And I purchased some sanding sealer, and I did the sanding on the plastic wood on the cabinet. So I'm getting close to doing the finish on that. This is my first time ever covering a soundboard with grill cloth. These right angle cutouts make it tricky. It should be hidden by the features inside the cabinet, but what I did was I fastened over here, stretched around this way, cut a little seam for the screws, and then I got up to the corner. I just did almost a 45 from here, and I decided I wanted to wrap on the top side. So that's what I did, and then what I have to do is sort of get rid of some of this excess, and then cut it back and fold it like this. So I'm kind of making it up as I go along, and I'm going to really think this through and get back and show you the next step. It's probably not real easy to see. What I did was I sort of bunched the corner, pocketed it here, and then pulled it over. So I've got several layers thick here, but it kind of resolves itself in the way it lies, whatever. And I'm just using finger strength to pull this. I've seen some interesting articles about fastening to a board, like stapling to this and then like using that to pull. That sounded fantastic, but let's see how this goes. Now down here I should be able to go to a 45, more of a legitimate seam. Let's see how that works out. Again, I'm not the authority on this, but it seems to be going relatively well. So at this sharp corner down here, I've got the material beveled or mitered, or however you want to refer to it, so that it doesn't overlap, or at least it almost doesn't overlap. And then I grabbed this corner piece and I said, well, instead of cutting it all the way back, why don't I sort of use it to pull around like that? It's going to be kind of hidden as it wraps around. So I'm going to try doing that. And although I think a pattern for this would be really helpful, you know, pattern making kind of template thing. I'm doing it by eye, and I think it's turning out okay. I hope I'm right, because I'd like this to be a one-shot deal. Am I out? Yeah, I think so. I'm reloaded. Let's get this taut up in the corner. Pretty good to me. It's a slightly different corner treatment on this corner that I'm doing, and I think this is better. Okay, so I've cut this flush, the part that's going to wrap around. This is like the upper, this is the top. So what I want to do is get like the 45 to this corner. The X-Acto blade helps me get the last little bit. Okay, so this is what's going to wrap over. So a lot of this I don't really need. Is what I'm thinking, anyway. So the tricky part is figuring out what can go. If I go straight up from here, that's safe. Okay. And now what I want to do is get this side to side action nice and locked in. Okay, now I know I'm going to bring this like this, and then what I kind of want to do is catch a little bit more of that. This comes over. I don't really need any of this. As for this part, I just want that to lie down. That's got it. Okay. So now I need the stress relieved connection between the tube inputs and the jacks through resistors. So I need to run from here to here, from this resistor to that, this resistor to that, and this resistor to that. I'm going to use little jumper pieces like this, kind of like spring coil. So I'll walk through one of these. I've got the iron hot and tin, solder at the ready. Here's a 1/4-inch jack. Now when I plug that in and the chassis moves like that, it's just springy and nothing's getting damaged. This is the cabinet with sanding sealer on it. I haven't done a final sand yet, but I've got this grill cloth on the soundboard and I've done a dry fit, so this is the fit up how it looks, and I think it looks pretty good. I think I'll go with anchors. These are wood screws that have a machine thread on the other end. You double up the nut here, lock them together, makes a head for the wood screw, and drive the wood screw into a certain depth. So I got to transfer the holes through. There are existing holes here. Got to transfer those through the grill cloth. So my first time covering with grill cloth worked out okay. I think it looks pretty good. Here's a little bit of hand fit up for you. I'm checking the stud that I have located right here. This is how this slides in with the grill cloth on it. Pretty sweet. And it's tight here, but it does engage and go in. And then checking it from the front. Looks good. We're going to go with that. A quick note on how I'm putting these in. This is the threaded stud. It's wood screw on one end, machine screw on the other. So I have two 832 nuts. This is an 832 thread on the machine screw side. And then I lock the nuts together. I don't know if you've ever done this before, but if you have a wrench and a socket, it makes it easier. Okay. Enough torque to really lock them together. Then we're going to go in here with it. Just follow the existing thread. Because I put the fasteners in here, drywall screws basically, when I first fit up the soundboard to the cabinet. This one I may not have gotten started very well. 3 out of 4 went really smoothly. Trust me. There. You probably see it's at an angle. It's because the driver, whether it was the original drywall screw or now with the ratchet, it has to sort of be at an angle in order to fit. It complicates getting the soundboard in there and means that you need a slightly larger hole, right? Because you have these 4 fasteners kind of like coming in at a funky angle. And part of what I'm doing is to check to make sure I've got a big enough hole. And then to remove the nuts, what I do is just come in like this. Just enough to break it free and you can spin them off. Of prime importance is to now put the soundboard back in and make sure that it will actually register on all 4 of those studs. It's likely it won't, and so I'll take appropriate action. Here's the fit up. Notched corners go up. I know that I was able to register onto this upper left stud. So I start that. See if I can start the lower one. Tight. Why not just blow out the hole? Well, I don't want the hole to be much larger than it needs to be, because I'll be encroaching on space that I don't want the hole to show from the front, basically is what I'm trying to say. But it looks like it's a little too tight, and it's mostly the lower 2. I've got the top 2 started. This one wants to go, but okay, so that's 3 out of 4. Maybe with a little gentle persuasion. I don't want it to be a slamming fit, but it's okay if it's a little tight. See, I think that feels like it's not going, and that was my suspicion. This guy wants a larger hole to engage into, so we'll take care of that. The existing hole I have here is approximately 200 thousandths of an inch, 2/10, about 5 millimeters. So I want to blow it out about another 20 thousandths or another 0.5 millimeter. And I have a 220 drill here, which is like 5.5 millimeters. And I have to be careful not to snag the grill cloth. I gotta say, overall I'm pretty happy with this project. This has been a good experience. Let's give that a try. Again, the top's going pretty easy. The third one. they all four can start, but because of the sideways angle, in particular this one, it's a bit much. So I'll add the extra 20 thousandths of an inch to the top holes and see if that's enough to loosen the overall fit and make everything happy. I opened up the upper holes, the extra 20 thousandths of an inch also. We'll see if we have enough clearance for this to smooth in. This guy's still stubborn. And I know it's because it was kind of an extreme angle. Ah, there we go. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Very nice. Quick reminder, this is what we had been dealing with. And push this beauty back a little bit. This soundboard was easier to fit in and out because it was a 3/8 thick. I'm using a 3/4 inch soundboard. This just had 4 studs in it there, and I don't know. Anyway, this thing is about to go in the junk heap, so keep that in mind.